Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Big Sexy titled Pretty Girl Blues. And if we switch over to here, I reviewed quite a bit of Big Sexy's music. I've reviewed a few tracks off of the River of Shame, the 2023 album. We've got the single here, Pretty Girl Blues, and I should note here, just before we get into it, we've got songwriter Gary Macagnone, composer Alex Goroshko, and we've also got a singer named Veronica, and apparently this song is from the second album titled Web of Deception. So I'm going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Oh, cymbal shimmers. Greg Lasando there. Great use of brass there as well, bit of sizzle to it. Hey My Jews, Pretty Girl Blues. Great trade off to the leads here. I want to trade off to a saxophone solo now. Okay, that was fantastic. That was awesome. Really cool song here. So that was Pretty Girl Blues by Big Sexy. I feel like it does make sense. I didn't get all the words clearly, but the ones I did, I can kind of put together what the track was about, and so we're going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Big Sexy titled Pretty Girl Blues. Now, what I think this track is about, I get the impression it's about someone who is mourning, I suppose. Hang on. I think they're talking about their life experiences. Early on, I talked about like pinned down by schoolboys or something like that, and talking about how like the beauty is meant for the silver screen, but then they've got to pay their dues. And so I'm kind of wondering if it's like an attractive woman's difficulties with trying to get places in life because people are trying to take advantage of her in order to get there. They're trying to pay their dues when we're taking advantage of her or something like that. And it's just, at the end they talked about seeing the wrinkles in the grey, and maybe it's about kind of like a cautionary, like relying on your looks or your appearance in order to go places or get places is not necessarily as reliable as other ways of sort of building yourself up. I think it's a sad track. I mean, clearly it is. It's Pretty Girl Blues. The vocals from Veronica within this are tremendous. I loved the way they sounded. They had really great vocal technique, nice control of the head and chest voice. They were a little bit subtle in the mix for my taste, so I would have preferred for the vocals to be a bit more clarity, but like it's just simply, I think we were trying to put a lot into the arrangement, and so the vocals did simmer within there, and they sounded fantastic. I liked the different vocal melodies and the harmonies. The backing vocals we had in some of the chorus parts were really well handled too, and I think it's just overall it was really well sung, well performed. We did sing in a way that made it was emotive. It did kind of roll off the 12 bars with the Pretty Girl Blues hook line being put at the end there. Great emphasis on that. Yeah, I think it was very well handled there. The choir behind her and in parts there was really tasteful, and it did give a sort of a bluesy aesthetic to it. The track at 4 minutes 10 was really well fleshed out with various verse and chorus sections and bridge parts. Well, it might have just been verses and choruses. You had several lead sections, including like a saxophone solo and a guitar part there. You had the acoustic guitar intro as well. We were not sleeping. There was development as well with additional instruments such as the brass and the trumpets added a bit later on. I think that it just has this natural journey, this progression that we go on through this person's life as they look back on it and sing about it. And I think that that's just really smart. It's just really effective songwriting and composition. If I talk about a few of the instruments that I enjoyed listening to in this, particularly the guitar parts, I think that they're really well handled, whether it was the single strings or the steel strings at the start there with the bluesy pentatonic scales there. Like the clarity of that did very sound authentic for music from like 100 years ago, and just bringing it into sort of a more contemporary environment was very tasteful. It immediately set the scene for what the track was about, set the mood, and you had no illusions about where we were headed with it. It was very authentic. When we added a bit more sort of distortion or sort of like overdrive later on there, a bit of extra heaviness to it, it added a bit of kind of fire and passion to it that I think matched well with the vocal takes and the story that we were telling there. We navigated through those chromatics and the harmonies effortlessly, and the lead solo that we had with bluesy pentatonics and bends and hammer-on bits there. Like it was a very traditional bluesy solo there that I think made sense within the genre, and also didn't try to take away from what Veronica was doing on the mic. And I enjoyed that. It doesn't need to be super shreddy in order to be effective, and we voiced ourselves really elegantly here, and it made sense within the rest of the backing arrangement. And so I just feel like the trade-offs we made there between different parts of the instrumental layers was smart, and the bass line underneath there, rolling with the root notes, typically sort of backing up in the low end, very effectively pocketing. Similarly to the drums, we had our cymbal kick and snare grooves, and we didn't overdo it. There was some fill transfers and stuff like that, but it's traditionally sort of supportive. The brass that we had going into it later on a little bit more was either highlighting notes within the triads or forming parts on the sides there where it's kind of built things up. The saxophone solo we had was a little more, I thought we were going to go full-blown saxophone solo, but we sort of more, it was just another kind of pseudo-lead voicing on top of everything else, and I enjoyed that. I think if we'd had a second guitar solo near the end, it definitely could have worked. But the fact that we kind of held off a bit, had another lead layer or another like instrumental part that could easily handle a solo, that was there, but that also was an outro. So we sort of wanted the whole entire band to come together in a way that was really smart. Like it was effective. It was just that development there, the adjustment of expectations, whilst further enhancing the existing chord progressions and rhythm patterns and stuff like that, and being like a foil for the main line is good. the keys with occasional glissandos, but mostly sort of rocketing around with the not rocketing around, it's not quite right the word. It's like we had a resonance in the mid-range there, the right hand's there, left hand being a bit more subtle with the bass, but reflected a lot of what the guitars and some of the lower, like in a lower octave potentially, and in a similar octave that it just had different textures. The choices of the chords and other pentatonic kind of chromatic bits on the piano was great without being too much. And when you combine all these elements together, you have a piece where I think regardless of what was sung, it would definitely sound like quote unquote the blues. It's just that we made it, I think, a bit more personal because this is Veronica on stage with their moment. And I think that Gary and Alex, with the songwriting and composition on display here, they managed to give Veronica that platform to speak their truth on. I thought it was really respectful, and it was just a really smooth track to listen to. There are a lot of different twists and turns. I haven't gone over in too much detail what the various sort of twists and turns within this, but I feel like it's a song where you need multiple listens in order to sort of really completely flesh it out. You get this feeling though that like it's not a happy ending, and you never necessarily were going to get a happy ending, and that is again the epitome of the genre. It's kind of mourning that, and we had a minor orient towards a lot of it. We had a bit of sassiness and kick to some of the tones in there, but overall it's not a happy, positive experience. I don't think music needs to be. Still a really cool track though. Sounded great, and the performance was tight without a note out of place. It's just the studio recording, mixing and mastering, the final note there, with a more sort of traditional, sort of straightforward 4-pattern across the deck, making it more contemporary blues than anything else. I like the fact that we still had a sort of an analogish kind of feel to the vocals, guitar, bass, drums, brass, and everything, piano, and everything else involved in it. I think the leveling in general was very good. There was stereo width, music surrounding you in the headphones. Parts popped backwards and forwards. They're aware of what was involved there to keep it entertaining and sort of interesting. There was dynamic range to it. Wasn't the same loudness all the time. Started a lot more quietly with the guitars, and then it built up over time. We made sure to be respectful to the ceiling there. It was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. And effectively, this is just my review of this track from an act named Big Sexy, titled Pretty Girl Blues, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.